I know what everyone's thinking. He should have just recorded out here. It's not so windy, but hey, I wanted to go for a walk, so it was worth it for me. Third video of the day. This one's a fun one. So I'm not releasing many details yet about the project, simply because there's so many details, and I really like this. I think people get it often wrong in terms of like software architecture, where people will try and specify details and it's not really that relevant. But yeah, if you specify things down to the level of how everything is going to work and should be, like, you would have probably had to either have built the system first to really know what it is that you need through iteration, or the plan that you follow and build will just not be correct. So sort of mapping out still a lot of stuff, and trying to allocate my time in the best way, and nailing down details is not, and again putting them into the level of mastery in my brain where I can talk about them and share them, that they have a value for you, is also, right now it's not the calculation that I made. So I'm going to talk about instead, I think one of the Zwischenschritte, one of the middle points or stepping stones on the way, is going to be getting as people start to come on board to the project and start supporting it. I'm going to be running a lot of experiments on the ideas of self-growth and of how should the system behave in the end, so that it allows for very frictionless, automatically incentivize people to act in the right way that is good for them and others. We want to test out some of these ideas with people, and I know it's going to take a while for this greed-ridden system, where the money, power, and control is all centralized, and most of us have very little idea about what's working and what's not, and we're just like, I don't get it, but I'm upset. So the idea is to this in-between step is going to be for people who join the project. We going to make, people can do this on their own, right? But they can take this idea themselves. I don't think the idea came from somewhere. I don't know if it was from Charles Hoskinson, not sure. But the idea that individuals will have their own currency, let's say, or control of their own monetary supply. We're going to build a couple tools for this, and the reason to do this is because it teaches some good principles about how value actually works, and I may talk about that now a bit, why not? So value is really broken in the current system, is the way that we see it, because money is supposed to represent value, and I'll give a couple examples where that's not the case. One is if a friend does something for us that could be an artwork, or they could be a mechanic, or they help us out, right? We expect them, or even we would try not to pay them the full amount of their service, and the friend is like, I'm doing it for a friend or whatever. And this is totally backwards, because if someone does something that's valuable, we should validate them for that by also paying money. And if we choose to play this game of representing value with some sort of an abstract notion, then we should understand what value is. If everyone did that, if 20 people, instead of asking this friend for free artwork or whatever, right, and like it's cool, or, fix my car and stuff, if everyone instead paid what this was worth, now your friend has the ability to do what he really loves in life, and maybe that is fixing cars for the people that he cares about, and not having to grind away in a paid job somewhere in circumstances where he's not fully in control of his own self and his own fate and his day and his wishes and needs. So people who have a much more self-employed people have a much more intrinsic understanding of what is value and how does it work and how do you calculate your time, and because they need to be, they're not getting, they're not so blinded by this paycheck comes and a percentage of that goes to the government as tax and so on. Value tax is also interesting. So by taking tax from people, people feel like they're getting robbed. Where in the sense, what should happen is, if I'm part of a system and I feel it's giving me value, which it should be, that should be the job of anyone, is to first of all produce some sort of value. Then you go ahead and say, look, I want to be a part of this. Here, take some support. Here's some money from me. I have a lot of resources, or maybe not so much, right? So everyone would decide on their own what it's worth for them to be a part of the system. It's a very different feeling of deciding to support something than when it's forced upon you. And some other areas where we get value mixed up is donations. So a donation, the wrong sort of donation is if you see a homeless person. I'm really glad I got clarity on this, because I always felt something was off and I couldn't put the words on it. So when you give someone money, a homeless person, this is a nuanced conversation, right? But I'm trying to follow along and you can ask questions, I'm happy to answer them. So most of the time, this person actually, they don't, depending on how it's given, they don't actually feel good, because the majority of people sort of don't interact with the person they're giving the money to. Sort of like here's 3 cents as they walk by, here's $1, maybe they might do a bit of a smile, but they won't engage and talk to the person as if, hey, what's going on? Like, I see, you're not doing very well, you're on the street, or what's up? Like, how are you? And of course, I'm not saying everyone should do this. You need to take your own ability and your level to not be taken advantage of, all sort of stuff. Listen to your body. It will guide you as to what you're capable of and how you should interact with people. But in the ideal case, for this sort of a person to be seen and to be, just like be smiled at and genuinely seen as a person is much more of a nicer feeling than a bit of money. And the money, imagine this: you're sitting there, you're feeling not very you're not worth a lot, just a bit down and so on, and you're like, all I can do is ask for some little things wherever people can throw my way, and people give you actually money for that. So they're validating you, they're saying this is all you're worth. You do nothing, and you're worth this little pebbles that I throw your way. And most people deep down, everyone knows they have so much in them, so much potential, and by validating this state of their being, it's like it's hurtful. Like they're like, oh yeah, it's not a good feeling. So what a donation is actually for is stop looking up at the trees. So a donation is, in the case, I think, quite useful when you've, someone has offered you a service and they might have done it for free, right? Like, they might be like, hey, look, I'm very good at art, or I'm good at this sort of thing, I can help you out with that. And a donation is very useful. Like, to not ask for a fixed fee is very useful if that person, for instance, has a lot of resources. And we see this a lot, right? Then they're like, hey, look, I'm going to make a donation to your cause. And they'll probably make a much higher donation towards you than they otherwise would if you had asked them, hey, give me like 50,000 or whatever. It's like, whoa, that's a bit forced. But donations again, they're validating what you're doing, and they have those resources. They give that to you. Tree. So another principle we sort of seek, value is definitely relative, depending on how much I have, where I go, what the cost of things are, how much I like you. That's all. That should be in my control. What I decide to, And that shouldn't be in the control of other people. And so with this game, let's say I'm playing with this idea that everyone gets their own coins and can control them, is that just got a call, just distract. What's friggin' distracting? The thing about this is that people start to learn a bit intuitively, like, hey, if maybe I'm an artist, upcoming artist, and yeah, this is a cool idea as well, right? You can say, hey, look, I haven't got anything now, but maybe in the future, I'm a good artist, and I cannot promise you what these tokens will be worth, but, I know that you supported me at that time when I didn't have anything. So, if you come knocking my way with a couple of tokens, I'll be there. I don't know. I'll have a talk with you. I'll do an art, whatever it is. It's up to you to negotiate and decide that. But like this person supported you, which is cool, right? So we see a couple of interesting principles that happen as well with money. So banks, for instance, or whatever, the government can decide to put out money and inflate it and do all this sort of stuff. And that's also a bit backwards, because who pays for that cost? It's everybody. And in this case, your friends and so on, like, they're knowing that probably nothing happens out of this. They bought into that and they decided, and what you risked is your social connections, right? Which is a very important part of our human behavior and what's important to us. So you're going to take it serious, like, all right, depending on your age and where you are in life and the relationships and so on. But hey, if I'm asking my friends to, hey, I have this thing and I want to go for it, and could you invest in me and I'll repay that in the future. I'm going to try my best here. If you make that publicly known, right, and you start to put yourself out there, like, there's a burden you're carrying on yourself. Like, you don't want to lose your social network or your friends and let them down. So yeah, it's an incentive that drives you forward, for one. And the second thing is, yeah, you can also in the future give something back to them. And if what you've done is valuable, we see different dynamics too, right? Like, if you're if your work and the things that you do are not that valuable, it sounds bad, right? Let's say, there's not as much demand for them. That's what I mean. So supply and demand is here what we see, right? So then maybe someone gives you one coin at the beginning, and you'll sit down with them for 2 hours and have a conversation, because no one's cashing in there. There's no demand for your time or these coins, or the value, whatever it is that you're producing. You're saying, hey, give one coin and you'll get one painting I do. But all of a sudden, people really like your stuff, and now it's like, well, I don't have time to do for one coin, one for everybody. So maybe now people start to bet. Someone's like, hey, I got 20. Like, if I give you 20, will you do one? Because I want it today, right? And then, so this is how the value of things with the supply and demand naturally will go up, and you can still decide, right? Like, how do I decide to do that for that much or not, or how much do I care about the person? There's a lot more control that people have. And this is at the beginning stage, as a way to get people used to this, to do experiments, to get feedback, and to learn from this and to incorporate it into the final system. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm looking for, I'm kind of busy. I have a lot of stuff to plan out. If someone wants to do some programming, we're going to be building on Cardano. So if someone wants to help program these coins and stuff, I have some artists doing the design for my coin. It's called Supersymmetry Energy Connection. Yes, I love the name. For me, it means love. It's a synonym for love. Like, supersymmetry, super cool. Like, I started noticing in physics this, like, a lot of different, like the symmetry between forces, and like this idea of that like the fact that exists, right? Supersymmetry, super cool. And then I saw a video on it, and I was like, wow, oh my god, like, I was thinking about these ideas, and yeah, and then the energy flowing around and the connection of that. Yeah, for me, it's a way to. It's definitely one way to think of love. Yeah, it's all around us. You just have to open your senses to it. Yeah, so we'll see how that develops and how people who on board, like, I don't know, maybe depending how funding is going, whatever, like we have a couple of artists who are gonna do some artwork for the coins and stuff, and I think it'll be kind of cool. So if people, yeah, like friends, family, think this vision I'm trying to enact is cool and they want to support, there's no guarantees that it goes anywhere, but if it does, you know, I think my supersymmetry energy coins will be of value one day. So yeah, you can trade them in for, I don't know, who knows, some time with me, or who knows. We'll see. We'll see what ingenious ideas I end up coming with for these tokens. So yeah, if people want to do any programming on Cardano, I'm not really interested in previous experience. As long as you're bright or motivated or want to learn, like, come message me and let's do this. So yeah, willing to pay money definitely as well. I'm not looking for free work. Pay money, give me money. Oh yeah, the idea of a game is what I wanted to talk about. So Alan Watts has a great talk about this, like the Joker. I think it's like a 2 or 3 hour lecture. Fascinating. I don't agree with everything he says, but it's fascinating. And so this idea that if you look at the system we're in, it's just a game, right? Like, define a game, right? With a system with certain rules and ways that you behave and so on. And when you realize, like, hey, like, I don't enjoy playing this one, and then everyone's like, oh, you know, this is the way it is, and this is the game, and like everyone's forgotten that, hey, this is just something, you know, this is a play, this is a, you know, creation that we're in, and we get born into it, and you've forgotten that you can decide to not to play it anymore. We can play something else, and people really like to stay in it and forget that they're playing a game. You know, they so that's kind of funny. And yeah, I don't know, I'm sort of over this one. So if anyone also feels like playing something else, and not saying, hey, this is the legal structure, this is the way the world is, and then yeah, let's get in contact somehow. Is it a good idea to put email on the internet? I don't know. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, or message me here and let's talk.